morning, viewers.
Okay, all right. So we know now that voting has started in some wards in Ondo State. We know that from what we got from our correspondent earlier this morning, there was delay at some polling units moving materials from the rack center, which we hope that by the time things go on, they would have gotten there yet. But as at 8:35, we know that voting had already commenced in some wards in Ondo State, which I feel it's a very good development. But now let us talk about how things are going there right now. We will also be linking up with our correspondents who are there. They would give us, or they'll bring us up to date on how things are going in the election scene there. And right here in the studio, we'll be giving you the analysis. We'll also be joined by election observers from all over the country that are also in Ondo State to make sure that things are going on well and the election remain free and fair and a testament to democracy in Nigeria. So now let me start with my guest. Let me start with Dr. Dele Shetolu. How have you been seeing this election so far? If we have to compare with what took place for Ondo election, that was just September last month, 2 months ago, yes, and then for this Ondo State governorship election, for Ondo and Ondo State election, what differences are you hoping you would see? Because Edo State election had some glitches from the observers that we had seen, and then they were pointing fingers at INEC and some political actors. And not for Ondo State election, we are already having issues of inducement of voters. So what are you hoping to see different for Ondo State election?
Good morning, viewers. I'll begin on this premise. The Independent National Electoral Commission has a trust deficit. Yes. It does appear that that the electoral body has exhausted its ideas on how to organize credible, free, fair elections. I have my doubts. I have my worries. I'm almost losing hope about the electoral umpire. No, please pardon me. It's quite easy that the election officials on the eve of elections would appear on national TV to make promises and to create the perceptions that every sector it's well prepared for the elections. It will turn out that the elections would in the long run be characterized by inadequacies and all kinds of shenanigans. You know, it's you recall we had the 2023 general elections, and then post 2023 general elections, some gubernatorial elections or governorship elections were scheduled as off-cycle elections, and I expected as a Nigerian, you know, that INEC had sufficient time, and it will be that there will be less pressure on the electoral body, you know, to organize decent elections in those off-cycle election states. But it's now that the off-cycle elections are becoming far more controversial, if not as controversial as the 2023, maybe more controversial. Outside, for instance, the Edo elections, you know, you recall the reports of the local and foreign observers, particularly local observers. The minuses for INEC exceeded the pluses. I wasn't impressed with the reactions, with the responses of the electoral body. There is arrogance, and INEC creates a perception that that whatever it did was unassailable and was sacrosanct, and whoever wasn't satisfied should go to court. And we're turning the court into the arena of politics. You know, elections fundamentally should be decided through the ballot box and not at the court. Maybe I should stop at that temporarily.
Okay, all right. And that's Dr. Adekunle Ojo. What are your thoughts about this election so far compared to Edo State? state governorship election and for this Ondo state election? What differences are you hoping to see?
Well, let me start from where my brother stopped. My take on that really is that I am one of those who agree that looking at almost every sphere of Nigeria life, it does appear that we have not been able to perfect any area, because he is talking about INEC. I can talk about the discourse. I can talk about the schools. You can talk about almost every aspect. We have deficiency one way or the other, and institution really matters in whatever we are doing. That's more reason why it becomes pretty difficult. Somebody came to me and said I should compare the election in US with the election in Nigeria. As I said, it's like comparing a dead man with a man who is sleeping. The man who is sleeping will wake up someday. That's the truth. So apparently there might not be too much basis for comparison, and we are only hoping, because talking about even food production, we are getting it. We are getting almost nothing. That's the truth. And so basically, if you say there are deficiency, if you say there are minuses, yes, it's in almost every aspect. Even the body that superintends the management of radio stations, television stations, they are not above board. It's like we just need to go extra to ensure that things work out in this country. Comparing the Ondo election with the Edo election, there is a, you see, I won't call it opera now. The way, the hype generated by the Edo election before head cannot be compared with the Ondo election. I mean, people are beginning to understand that, especially with Harris and Kamala Harris and Trump. People are beginning to understand that, yes, you can play your role using this poll, shadow poll elections result and all whatnot, but then elections itself will be determined by the voters on the day of election. You know, the controversy generated in Edo, in fact you would assume that LP was going to win that election, because they won almost every poll in Edo State. It was akpata everywhere, and you know, but coming to this, you know our side, as a people, you can no longer overrate a Nigerian electorate. You cannot even determine what will influence a Nigerian electorate. We have gotten to a level that the permutations are no longer working. The predictions are no longer working. I won't accuse anybody wrongly. I won't accuse INEC wrongly. I want to believe that they are discharging their duty to the best of their ability. But coming to Nigeria, you would assume that, look, this is the way election was going to hold, because people are holding one party or the other accountable for one thing or the other. But you just find out that permutations do fail. If you look at the hype generated by the Edo election, before the election, even during the election and all whatnot, it was as if no, it was going to end on this. But then we have gotten to a level and people are beginning to see that, look, that what you predicted using your polls did not really materialize. So compare with Ondo, it doesn't appear that people are talking that much on social media. People, because perhaps, and I will tell you the reason why. Number one, Ajayi, who happened to be a former deputy governor to Akeredolu, is a politician. Is a core politician. He is not the type that would dance to what a radio station or a television station is saying, or what an opinion minder is talking about. He will want to go to the grassroots, see how much vote he can get. The same thing with Ayedatiwa. So apparently that is the difference, and for me really it smacks of some level of partisan competence. You now see people who really understand what it takes to win an election. Whoever wins the election, I'm not going to cast any aspersion. I'm not going to say anybody's going to real, anybody's not going. But then you will see that the election, to a very large extent, you see people trooping out, influenced either by their godfather, influenced by relationship, influenced by party, I hope it won't be influenced by money, but you remember recently in America they were influenced by money. So when the politics appears to be there, we could hope that, look, for me really, this election, it doesn't appear to be that predictable. And people are not banking on any forecast. They are not taking their chances to the bank now to say, oh, this social party will win. Party A said I will win. Party B said I will win, which is very natural. But it doesn't appear that outsiders are saying, yo, it has to be this man or that man. The permutations are no longer, the people are talking about somebody supporting somebody, but this is an election. What clout does the man who says he's supporting you, what clout does he have? So I think by and large there is a slight difference, and the preparedness is a bit better than the Edo one. Agreeing with him, off-cycle elections are supposed to bring the best out of us, because you have a concentration of almost your resources to just one state. So I do not expect them to fail. I do not even expect INEC to fail.
All right, thank you so much for that. You know, talking about the voting not being that, there will be lots of influence, like you said. Maybe people coming out for their godfathers, maybe coming because of relationship, or for some other sentimental reasons. For election observers that we've talked to so far, they mentioned issues of inducement of voters, and even right now at Unit 15 Veterinary Ward 5 Akure South, we have EFCC officials already there addressing voters against buying. But since even before the election started, we are already having signs that the vote buying is already taking place, or inducement, so to speak, is already taking place. So would we say that the voter education was not enough, or people are just so hungry they do not care about what anyone is saying as long as they get something for themselves?
It's really a factor of let me put it, it's an issue of so many factors coming together. In this part of the world, there has always been this deliberate decision by the powerful or those that are in government to ensure that some people remain perpetually below the enlightened level. They are kept below literal level. Look, I said this. My brother here, myself here, it's going to be pretty difficult for anybody to approach him and say, take this money. You can understand what I'm talking about. But that's going to be pretty difficult, and say, oh, Mr. Daly, I'm giving you this, vote for so person. No, you can't even look at his face and mention it. So you see, for me really, it's a factor of, yes, number one, people don't even understand why they should vote. And if you look at it very well, you have about 2 million now registered to cast their vote in this election. You find out that they might not have more than 500,000 at the end of the day, meaning that a lot of people will have resorted to faith and say, look, whatever happens, let it happen. That's one. Then again, people that are being influenced, a good number of them are political attaches. People who are working with one political party or the other, they are already involved. So apparently, to take money to them becomes very, very easy. I tell you, I give you one instance. There was an off-cycle election that happened in Ikitilo quite long ago. Somebody came to me and said he was really embarrassed because the candidate came from that town, and it was the resolution of the almost everybody that, look, all our votes should go to this man. He's the first person coming out to say, I want to become a governor in the whole of Ekiti State. We should vote for. But you find out that within the same town, it was an issue of somebody taking 100,000 naira to vote, another person taking like, because it was quite expensive. It's not like the 5,000, 10,000 that they are talking in Edo State. It was quite expensive. So but you can imagine that is the level. Some people say, okay, we want to vote for you because from our town. But some people say, look, oh, let me take whatever I need to take now. I will not see this man again. I will not even benefit in any way again. So I think I agree with you, voters education, but then how much education can you do with a man who has lived all his life on the street, who believes that even if he sees you on the road, he takes away your money, he doesn't wink. He has lost some sort of milk of mercy. He's no longer looking at things from the angle from which we are looking at it. He's no longer looking at himself as a pure human being. He has certain things that's eaten into him. A man who is on Colorado, a man who is on drug, a man who has ridden Okada all his life, and what does he take home at the end of the day? And you now say, okay, take this. The man is willing to do it. And you know the way they do it is like they don't even give all at a go. You go cast a vote, then you come back and take your balance. How much EFCC can curb this? I do not know. But I agree with one thing, that there must be a fresh orientation. And look, poverty has eaten too deep into the fabrics of an average Nigerian. It's so easy to get certain things done. Like in US, they did the same thing happen, yes, but not at this dimension. They are talking about big money. Who post it into your account and all whatnot? Yeah, Elon Musk. Yes. So you know, it was quite. So you it's not peculiar to Nigeria. That's the truth. And we actually borrowed this from outside. And you know, unfortunately, vote buy started in Ondo State. I say that with all sense of responsibility. It started when Mimiko was coming for his re-election. It's the first time I had the Boko Shebe was in Ondo State election. That's the truth. So it's like the thing they actually exported it to every other part of Nigeria. That's the truth. So I don't really see how to curb them. Might be pretty difficult. And how many officials of EFCC do we have on ground? Even if we have all the officials of EFCC cited or seated in the Ondo State as we speak now, they won't be able to start. These people getting this thing done, they are not going to do it the way you expect they would do it. So I think it's a big problem for us. That's the truth. It's a big problem.
Okay, now to Dr. Shetolu.
Yes.
This issue of vote buying is something that is becoming 5 and 6 with our elections in Nigeria. Even though, okay, for example, in Ondo State election, they were able to catch some people that were trying to induce voters, that they were trying to give them money. And there are some that from the election observers that were there, and even for some of our correspondents, they mentioned how discreetly they were carrying it out. People would vote as long as they voted for. They would guide them into, allegedly, they would guide them to a car, and then they would give them something, and then they move on. So it seems as if even residents, because according to public opinion polls that was carried out in Ondo State by lots of news organizations, it seems as if people usually look forward to this election time because they're not expecting anything from government, and this is the time that they feel that they could actually get something for the government of the day, because okay, roads are not constructed, hospitals are not in very good state, but at least they will be getting some share out of whatever thing that is left for the state to use to for grooming the state. So if this is the situation we have at hand, what do you think the government could do? Maybe even if it's INEC, EFCC, government agencies, what do you think could really be done to curb issues of vote buying and people themselves asking for things like this?
Well, there is a problem. There are problems about Nigerian democracy, and the issues you're raising are numerous. I don't know how to begin. maybe I'll begin at this level. Issue about vote buying are situated within the context of the relationship between democracy and development. There's the presumption that democracy, in the medium and long term, ought to foster development, in concrete terms, but the reality, the concrete realities in Nigeria are such that there's the linkages between democracy and development, in the sense that democracy is not fostering development, rather the democracy in Nigeria, the pseudo-democracy, is underdeveloped in Nigeria economically and politically. Do you get my point? It might appear a bit theoretical, but it illustrates in a sense, the relationship between democracy and development. Recall that there have been talks about dividends of democracy. Okay, the Nigerian people expected that post 1999, that civil rule, the civil rule or democracy, would would lead to economic growth, economic development, political development, etc. But the economic indices are suggesting otherwise. Okay, the hopes, the aspirations to appropriating the dividends of democracy are receding in the public space. Nigerians are getting increasingly alienated and disenchanted about the state actors and their capacity to provide the dividends. Though we could explain vote buying within that context. The absence of the dividends of democracy and the loss of hope about democracy fostering development, makes the voters vulnerable, to vote buying and all forms of manipulation, and all forms of manipulation. Okay, and the second level of analysis is the state of the economy. The economic indices about the state and economy in Nigeria are perplexing. The Nigerian economy is in dire strait, and the poverty level is huge, more specifically material poverty. About 120 million Nigerians live in severe poverty and deprivation. I mean, if you're familiar with the statistics provided by state agencies, including the Bureau of Statistics, the economic indicators, including level of employment, the level of inflation, the cost of living, etc., suggests that the Nigerian mistreated, and pauperized. The economic, the adverse and the harsh and adverse effects of prevalent neoliberal policies are such that with this, the capacity of the Nigerian person to resist, financial inducement, vote buying, etc., it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. The trajectory is such that the increasing economic downturn, has empowered, in quote now, the Nigerian state and its actors to weaponize poverty. Poverty has been weaponized. It's been weaponized, become a weapon. It's become a weapon to ridicule the Nigerian people. It's become a weapon to embarrass the Nigerian people. The voter who ought to be, who are in real and in practice, in legal terms and in practice, are the popular sovereign. It does appear no longer the sovereign. Whatever and whoever determines who gets what now appears to be residing elsewhere other than the populace. How do you explain that that the Nigerian voter who doesn't have a job, who doesn't have a home, whose children exited schools, who receives financial overture, to vote for a certain political party, it will be extremely difficult. It will be quite difficult. And you should bear in mind that we live in a state that is malevolent. We do not live in a state that is benevolent, and there are no social security measures or schemes. So the Nigerian people, the urban poor and the rural peasants, are left to the ravages of market forces and the predatory political class. These are the tragedies. I'm almost losing hope about Nigeria. I'm getting to the point that my blood pressure increases when I discuss Nigeria. Nigeria is becoming a tragic comedy, and they do not know how would likely exit these problems. You're asking about what we'll be doing. See, my reactions will be this. We've been addressing temporal we've been providing temporary solutions to the question of vote buying, election rigging, election manipulation, etc. We need to identify and address major and fundamental responses to the question of electoral crisis. The first issue I will raise is, our elections and political offices are very attractive. So it is based on the majoritarian system, and whoever wins wins all, and whoever loses loses everything. So the factions of the political class are desperate and very desperate to capture power, and it doesn't matter who lives or who dies. Whoever might die, and to hell with whoever dies, and whoever might as well live in perpetual poverty. We should review the majoritarian system, particularly for some levels of offices.
Okay.
State House of Assembly and the National Assembly, Senate, House of Reps, and all that. Shouldn't Nigeria consider a proportional representation system as opposed to majoritarian rule?
Okay.
That for me a major intervention in resolving the electoral crisis.
Okay.
That for me is a major intervention. I could talk. Maybe I would expatiate.
Yes. Apologies for breaking the flow of your thought, because now we have to link up with our correspondent who is joining us live from Ondo State. We'll have Kunle Ondo now, who is on standby to give us updates on how things are going over there. Good morning. Could you please bring us up to speed on how things are going there at your end?
Thank you very much, Ivan, for having me again. Recall that where I was before was a problem, but now the problem has been resolved. The material that we have now, I can confirm to you that election has commenced. At least in most of the area I've visited this morning. And a few minutes ago, I caught up with some officials of the Economic Financial Crime Commission, where they were addressing some voters on the need to be peaceful one, and also on the need to return and avoid all form of malpractices that could mar this exercise. So I can see behind me here, security check work is here, and movement is being checked as expected. Voters are out to perform their civic duties. Behind me, these are Unit 5, Ward 14 at NEPA in Abeokuta and in Akure South local government. Voters are behind me, and they are performing their civic exercise. So, in all, voting is ongoing in some of the polling units I've visited, right Cathedral up to NEPA here, and the turnout of voters has been impressive. Also, I have with me here one of the observers that have been on the field since this exercise commenced this morning, and I would love her to share a view on what has happened. You've been around for a few minutes. What are your observations?
Elections have started, and it's relatively peaceful in all the voting units we've been to. We've been to Ward 5 and polling unit 14. We've been to 18. We've been to 19, and everything seems to be going on well. But from Elect Her, we have a thing about inclusivity. So it was good to see that a blind woman could actually cast her votes. I met her there, and it was very encouraging to say that she called out who she wanted to vote for, and then she could actually vote. And then we had a police presence, both female and males, and everything is going on well. So far, it's a good one.
Thank you very much for sharing your view with us. So you can listen to what they have said. That election has started, and as at this moment, things are going on as expected in this particular location.
Is it like, because since the voting has started, you said that it is peaceful and then people are coming out, which is a very good thing. What about security presence there? I know it is still early to try to envisage if maybe there might be troubles or challenges as election goes on, but so far, how is the security like over there?
Behind me is a checkpoint here, and as it was in other places I've been to, within this Akure South, the security deployment has been massive, that's been encouraging, and there hasn't been any harassment in all the areas I've visited. Checkpoint is here, even at some of the political polling units as well. We have officers of the Nigerian Police Force custom, immigration, among others, that are on ground to see that things are going on as expected. So talk of security, everything is in place, and voters are, as well, are happy that they are safe, secure at the polling unit.
You were previously, you mentioned that the rack center we were at, that they've not really gotten there to pick up the materials and distribution. But before you left that area, has the takeoff occurred before you left the area?
Yes, the extra round off there, and a particular what two at that location, voting has started. Some of the videos that I've uploaded are even to the fact that voting, accreditation and voting are going on as at now. Before I left the place, at least no fewer than 10 voters, they've performed their civic duties at that particular location. All the materials are reported earlier on. They've moved out. Alternative arrangements have been made, and adult polling officials, materials, and secure officials that have been stagnated for almost 1.5 hours. They've left the scene, and by now they should have their respective polling units.
Bringing us up to date with what's going on over there. We'll be linking up with you as the time goes on. So hopefully there will be new developments that you'll be able to share with us. Thank you so much, and please do stay safe.
Thank you for having me at this time.
All right, that's our correspondent who joined us live from Ondo, Kunle Ojo. And now we also have on standby Sophia Bishi, the Head Knowledge Management and Learning Yaga. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on Ondo Decide 2024.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate you joining us at this time. So could you please bring us up to date on how things are going so far with the election in those states from your end over there?
Okay. Because of things have changed.
Thank you so much for having me. I think from our end, it's not too different from what your correspondent did.
Thank you, sir, for accommodating me.
Can you hear me? Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so much. Things are going on. Fully, arrive polling units early. From the polling units we've observed, out of 90, 250 something of the polling unit we were at as at 7:30 had about 70% of them with INEC officials. So to say that INEC officials arrived at their polling units a bit early, but what we've also noticed is that elections are a bit slow and turnout is low. So for us, we think this is the time that as we engage on all media platforms is to encourage citizens, because the election is not yet over. They have till 2 o'clock for the elections to hold. Is to encourage citizens that are still at home to turn out in masses and vote. We've also seen deployment of sensitive materials as of now is in a good quality. We've also seen movement of materials, but let's also mention that even as at yesterday, most of the practices were open as at yesterday, which could be the reason why we were seeing some level of impact in terms of early opening of polls as compared to Edo elections. But there's still low level of participation, and we're encouraging that citizens should move go to their polling unit and accept the franchise. Just also add that we'll also monitor the functioning of the smart reader. Smart reader seems to be working fine. But again, it's to tell us that we should not be relaxed, because to get heated in the afternoon or evening during polling, so still to go out and watch and observe and cast their vote, as well as continue to observe and the violent manner.
Go ahead there. Do you think that perhaps the reason there's low turnout of voter might be because there was not enough sensitization? Do you feel like that is probably part of the reason why a lot of people are not coming out? Because it seems as if Edo state election was so popular, but for those state election, things seems to be on the low ebb side compared to the attention at Edo state governorship election got. So would you blame that on not enough sensitization, or perhaps from your end there might be other things responsible for the low turnout of voters?
Yeah, just to mention that, first of all, the template by INEC and like us is that is used to state. And when the Edo election turnout was poor, it has the least turnout history. Despite the noise, it was just the political narrative and that were happening and occupying the media space that was making it look like it was giving much attention. But we can also attribute this to campaigns. Political party campaigns started a bit late in the state, but in terms of voter sensitization by both INEC and civil society, we can even say that there was more effort from INEC because the civil society organization on ground were mobilizing, and also with INEC to carry out voter education to encourage citizens to turn out and vote. But I will also tell you that from a personal point of view, a range of factors that could lead to that. This some citizens will tell you that the economic recession in the country and in the world too is also affecting them. Then some people opine that the popularity of the contestant, we don't have an independent candidacy. This is an opinion, that's not my own opinion, because I'm not from Edo State. Some people will say that there's also some people have opined that an elite, probably there's an elite consensus to support a few in the elections. So these are just general perceptions that have not been subjected to any test to prove that the reason behind this. But again, we've also seen that in history there's a continuous decline in voter, not just in Ondo State, but in other off-cycle elections and even general elections that were just concluded last year. So it's time for us to go back to the drawing board to look at what are we doing, what are we not doing, and what should we do differently to ensure we encourage citizens to turn out in election on election day.
One more question. What is your thoughts about how INEC is conducting this election so far? For the mayor's election, if anything goes wrong, INEC is always blamed. So for their conduct so far for those state election, how would you rate them?
Yeah, I like the fact that you asked for their conduct. Their conduct so far, they are doing very well. Their officials arrived early, even though there was delay in arrival of materials in some units. So with that, we can say yes for this first part, because election is in parts. There's the part for opening and there's a part for setup. There's also a part for voting and accreditation, then for counting. So we're yet to see the other aspect of the elections for us to be able to join the entire election day process as well as the outcome of the result. But so far, for the early part of the elections, we think they are doing well on the average. And that's why we said that citizens need to be vigilant and watch out to see the other parts, because all elections are very significant to the outcome of the election.
Update and insight you're giving us about the election. We truly appreciate your presence. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Have a wonderful.
And that's Sophia Bishe, the head of knowledge management and learning, Yaga Africa. And now back to my guest in the studio, Dr. Shiteolu. You were talking about the National Assembly and which might be part of the problems we're having in Nigeria when it comes to weaponization of poverty and probably some of the things that might be promoting voter inducement in Nigeria's democracy.
Oh, yes. Well, the issues are numerous. We can possibly exhaust the issues there, but we could surmise some of these. I said we should reinterrogate the nature of political representation in Nigeria. Political representation is based on majoritarian system. So, and it's a simple majority-based electoral system. Okay, the and the majoritarian system is also zero sum in nature, and that explains the intense and the warlike nature of politics. And politicians could go to any extent to gain political power. It might as well kill. I mean, the political class, or a politician might as well kill to access political power. What should we be doing to make political office less attractive? Okay, yes, we should think about it. We should think about it. And one option also, this is the proportional representation system. The proportional representation may not apply to gubernatorial and presidential, but it could apply to the lower levels of elections, particularly the representative-based elections at the state and national level. And the proportional representation, the presumption is that politics within this arena, would be based on consensus, and compromises, rather than zero-sum politics. Okay. I recall an election, in 2023, 2003 or thereabouts, a candidate of the National Conscience Party, won substantial votes, in the Lagos West Senatorial District. But whoever lost, the candidate that had a simple majority was declared the winner. Okay, maybe we should rather review the process such that there will be thresholds, and whoever meets the thresholds, or whichever party that meets the thresholds will secure representation in Parliament. And that presupposes that there will be a shift from single-member constituency to multi-member constituency. It is probable, it would therefore be probable, that two or more political parties will represent a constituency, as opposed to a single party representing a constituency.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much for that. So, Dr. Ojo, recently the House of Reps, one of the bills that we're considering, one of independent candidacy in Nigeria. Do you think that might work?
There is nothing wrong in having independent candidacy in our elections. In fact, for me, it's good. I mean, it will come as an impetus for those who are sitting by or standing by to participate. It has its advantages, it has the disadvantages, because we are peculiar people, that's the truth, and we are human beings first and foremost. And if you see, we talk about all these things, the voters in Nigeria, they were not imported from America. They are not going to be imported from UK. They are Nigerians, and we have a way of doing our things. And that's one reason why when my brother was talking, I just felt, look, yes, we can all be agitated, we can all be so passionate about Nigeria, that we should avoid developing high blood pressure. That's the truth. I'm being fair with it, because basically these problems will come, it will go, it will fizzle out. It is a man who is around that can be part of the dividends, if there will ever be dividends. But then I'm just going to ask him to plead with him to take it a bit low. There is nothing anybody can do about it. Is it like we talk about the vote buying of a thing? You see, the concept is large, it's big. I'll give you one instance. When Fayoshe was coming in newly in Ekiti State to contest against was it Fayemi? I can't remember now. Yeah, and you know that it's a concept. It has several heads that comes together. You can vote and you don't have to buy on the day of the election. I'll give you an instance. A woman came and said, oh, we were even talking to her, Mama, who are you going to vote for in this election? He said, that man who is giving water to everybody. Because somebody came in and started giving water. I was not in government and he was giving them water. Understand me? So when you look at that kind of a thing, you have just seen one in America not quite long ago. There could be many more, but one came viral. And that one said, oh, my husband voted for Trump and I voted for Kamala, then he has to get out of my house. And I mean, she did it. She did it openly. You know, there are so many intimidation can become another aspect of vote buying. When you coerce somebody, when you intimidate, when you say yes, this must be done, and you know, America now they don't give cash again. They come by way of discount. They discount certain things for you. They get some money into. You understand what I'm talking about? And you know, it's much easier in that place even do vote buy without reaching anybody. They reach you online because you do your voting online. Nobody sees you. Unlike this one that you have to be there, you have to this and that. You talked about the lady was talking about voters apathy. I am an apostle of if you want to vote, go and vote. If you don't want to vote, there is no way anybody will force another person to vote. You might register, and if you find that if you look at the voters register, you might see some names repeated several times. You see some people who are, you see Trump voting in Ondo State. You might be surprised if the name of Obama is in one of the lists. So we have problems with those lists. So apparently, where you don't, there was a time there was an election held in Ekiti State. I remember so well. It was an off cycle. At a point, certain votes were discountenanced. Then there was now concentration on a particular place called Oyekiti. And one of the coup parties said, whatever deficit we have recorded in the result declared by the court, we are going to get it in Oyekiti. Then everybody sat outside. We want to see where you get 14,000 people in this place. It's as simple as that, because based on the voters list, you have like 30-something thousand. But when people that came to vote, there were less than 4,000 people. And people sat outside. We want to see how you will get 14,000 that will catch up with your deficit in the other election. So when you look at all of this together, we have issues. But then I quite agree that we need to look at our priorities. We cannot copy the Western world at all times. I am one of those who believe that yes, it might look a bit laborious or tortuous, but the option A4 thing, whereby people will queue, you will do your election, counting will be done, you go home. It might look a bit stressful, but then for me, we need to come back home. We need to look at how we can do our thing. We don't have to follow the Western world at all times. Theirs might look quite good, it might look quite fantastic. You understand? Then, contrary to what he said, election is about law. It is about law. If the law changes today, so be it. But like the analysis of the majoritarian thing that he spoke about that we have, yes, because that is what the law says presently. In a situation whereby a man surpasses a threshold, then therefore two people from a constituency will not go, then definitely what about a situation whereby it's only one man that surpasses, then there will be disequilibrium in that kind of a thing. So these are hypotheses that I wish look at vigorously, we look at in-depthly and see whether it will work out or it will not work out. But above all, we are doing pretty well. Let people do let them do it. And I'm one of those that, you see, when people were talking about Edo and Edo or no Edo, whether they had issue or they didn't have issue, I say the issue is this. These days in Nigeria, yes, we might not have attained perfection, that's the truth. But then this election, we can all know the result of every election from the polling unit. People that are said to be doing some fraudulent practices at the collation, you can only collect what is brought to you. You cannot collect what did not happen at the polling unit. So I'm one of those who that look, let's all be vigilant. Let the electorate vigilant. Let those that are canvassing be vigilant as well. At the end of the day, I think we can get there. That's the truth. We will get there.
Well, I do have hope that one day we will get there, and Nigeria will become an enviable country that people would be rushing to come to Nigeria.
To lose hope.
Yes, definitely. So now we are joined by Professor Ralph Akinfele, who is joining us live from Lagos, a political analyst. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today on Ondo Decide 2024. Really appreciate your presence.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Okay, all right. So in Ondo State right now, the election is ongoing, and so far everything has been reportedly peaceful. There have been a few delays here and there. We also have accounts of EFCC officials going to these places, to those votes and polling units, to educate the people about vote buying and things like that, so that we would have a free, fair election in Ondo State. But so far, with how the election is going, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, my thoughts are, one, if you consider the election not a do or die, it should be election for do and laugh, and it should be an election for the fundamental development of the Sunshine State, and it should be based on truth and honesty. The issue of vote buying and also snatching of ballot paper, all those ones should diminish. And I think you understand that Ondo people are very honest people. They are always determined, and they don't take nonsense. Don't like cheating. Once they are cheating and they follow the due process, I think there will be a peaceful and credible election. However, we will be living in full paradise if we think everything will be 100% okay. There will be -5 level error. In my judgment, I think the Ondo election can be determined. The winner will be determined from two sectors. The local government, in either the local government, as you heard yesterday from the INEC people, to watch that place, because the deputy candidate PDP is from that way. He is a very popular person in that local government area up to federal. The people are likely to vote for their son rather than party. They are not going to vote on party line. Then you go to Owo. You understand the deputy governor for APC is also from Owo. And our people are going to divide their vote, and very much they are going to vote for their son. That is the deputy governor of APC. So if you go to the Riverine area, you will notice that the APC candidate is also they are going to vote for their son. So the problem we have is that let us have give and take. Let us reduce vandalism. Let us reduce thuggery. Let us focus on the development. So we need to appeal to our leaders not to make this election a do or die. It will be an election for peace, election for tranquility, election for good, election that will be a reference point. Because Ondo people are very orderly, and as I said, they are very anxious, and sometimes they don't like cheating. If there's no cheating, you will know that the peaceful. If you go back to the Omobudu era, they voted for somebody, and somebody tried to change it, and they brought money and they burned every place. So they have to be very careful. Ondo state people are really determined, and many times they don't set their conscience. Yes, the security. Now, the security also to be very vigilant, and don't behave like terrorists. They should behave as people who will assist them. And I also want to appeal to the so-called what do you call international observer. They should observe well, and they should not be partisan. They should see and talk about what they see, not what they think it happened. They should observe critically. And then finally, I appeal to the state media not to turn the election of Ondo State to social disorder. There will be peace. And at the end of the day, the winning candidate will emerge. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so all right, from you mentioned things about electoral observers and international observers that they should observe what is actually going on there. So one of the things that they have reported to us, media stations that are present at the scene, is that there are low turnout of voters. But you said something about the Ondo State indigenes and residents being disciplined. So what do you think could be responsible for this low turnout of voter that has been recorded so far in the election?
Well, it's too early. It's too early to call. The election will close probably around 5, 6, or 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock. I don't know the time, but the Ondo people are very determined. I am from Ondo State myself, and I'm sure my people will come out in large number and vote for people they think that can really develop the state. So it is very early for us to say people are not coming out. They are taking their time. They will come out en masse within the next few hours, and then many of them are farmers. They are coming from long distance to come to the city and food, and some of them are in the villages where they have police stations. They're taking their time to see the momentum. They will come out and vote. You can see the campaign. The campaign was very rigorous on both sides. Also, you look at the debate. Debate also was rigorous, and issues came out both from APC and PDP. And you also notice the caliber of the contestants. They are sharing the same platform. Both of them were former deputy governors, and so they know the in and out of the place. And in terms of understanding the people, they should be able to know them better. And they should, if they want to introduce food buying, that will fail, because many of them will not sell their conscience. The hunger in the land, yeah, that's correct. They are not likely to sell their conscience, because people are determined. And it's a formidable election. Again, I repeat, it should be an election for growth and not do or die election. It's do and smile election. People will come out. I'm very optimistic that people will come out. Just it's too early to say there's no low turnout. We started like no less than 4 hours ago. People will come out en masse, because the campaigns, they went to all the 18 local government areas, and people will come out to come and vote.
For this particular election, we have 17 political parties, but it seems the competition is with the ruling party and the main opposition party, that is APC and PDP. Earlier in your analysis, you mentioned that there would be some parts of some local government areas who would more likely vote for their sons, or maybe the deputy governor. Everyone would vote for their interests. But are we not come past the time where we let sentiments guide who we vote for in Nigeria? Perhaps that is, would you say that's even part of the reason we are in so much hardship, because we are usually using sentiment to vote rather than looking at it from a logical from a logical point of view, and looking for who we think would be the best for the job, and not just because we are affiliated with this person in one way or another?
Well, it's an aberration to have 17 political parties. You recall yesterday, about 2 or 3 of them, they come. Those people are looking for money. The 17, the most serious group are the APC, PDP. Labour is having a problem. In the case where a brother is not even supporting a candidate, you have a brother who was a former governor, and you are contesting under Labour, and he's not supporting you. You think people will go out and vote for that kind of a person? It is a misadventure for that kind of people. We are talking 17 people, 17 parties. They are just the most significant and PDP. That is the logical thing. The other 17 just going there for looking for money, and they want to bail themselves out. And also in selection, you will know that somebody we cannot, in political typology, in political apology, we cannot discontinent the power of the incumbent. Incumbency is a factor to be reckoned with. And you will also note that in some areas, it is not what they say they want to do, it's what they think they will do. For instance, during the election, the political parties and the candidates will say they are going to do the dualization of roads, they are going to provide free education, they are going to provide even a mobile air condition, and it's rubbish. It's what they do that matters. So we don't do a campaign. Campaign was not issue based at that time. You also recall at the debate, one of the candidates did not do very well at all. I'm disappointed. That person was like Mr. Trump of the United States. Instead of asking vote was so. He asked, "Where did you get that figure?" And then misinformation is very critical, and people are taking note. So if you understand it, apology, and at the end, if they come, INEC should also take extra precaution, because the people that are dealing with are special brand. When it comes to election, they are special brand, and INEC should understand that one. I also want to bring to your notice the PDP started complaining that the resident, one of the INEC is I think from Ondo State. But I understand the lady, the one can walk anywhere you want. That's not a fact. The fact, what are you going to do rather than removing a resident election officer? He's not going to be the one to determine the elections. He's going to be the only one to count. People, it's a count, not one single woman that will determine who wins. The salvation and is the voice of the people.
That's the issue of using sentiments to vote, because Dr. Joe was saying previously that people come out to vote for their maybe godfathers, for people who they are affiliated with in one way or another. Have we not suffered enough in Nigeria to the point that we will stop voting by sentiment and rather by cold hard logic?
Well, you know, there are political realities, and they are what ought to be. I heard Professor Ralph Akifele mentioned that XYZ voters in certain sub-regions of Ondo State would like to vote for specific candidates on sectarian grounds, okay, particularly ethnic affiliation. You know what? Nigeria is multicultural, multi-ethnic. And Nigeria is not a nation, it is a nation state. You know what I mean. The centrifugal forces within Nigeria's federal structure are huge and quite debilitating, and are threats to national integration. So the ethnic question, the sub-ethnic question, the regional question, and religious question are still pervasive in the determination of who gets what, how in Nigeria. We cannot deny it. I recall, there's been a major treatise written on what's described as ethnic politics in Nigeria by Nnoli Okudiba Nnoli, professor of political science, though retired at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. And he further wrote on ethnic politics in Africa, and those documentations capture the ethnicization of politics in Nigeria. They are real, and some other literature that documented government and politics in Nigeria, particularly those by Kalu Ezera, the late M. Awa, Humphrey Nwosu, Oyelayi Oyediran, etc., captures the somewhat prevalence, of sectarian considerations, ethnic questions, in the determination of elections, etc., etc. You know, the question we should be posing is how ideological, you know, is election in Nigeria? Are these elections ideology based? I would respond that to a large extent, politics and political contestations in Nigeria are far less ideological and far more value based in terms of those sectorial interests. You know, ideology, you know, ideology has not permitted politics and political struggle in Nigeria. I recall, and if you're familiar with the literature of Nigeria's First Republic, you know, the political parties, you know, that dominated Nigeria's First Republic were rooted in ethnic and cultural organizations, you know, and so on and so forth, and you know, you recall that the political developments in Nigeria included the annual June 12, though it's been addressed, and so on and so forth, you know, as further exacerbated the fault lines in Nigeria, you know. The federal relations in Nigeria is such that built on very volatile lines, you know. They're quite volatile lines, you know. The centripetal forces that ought to convert Nigeria into great are far less, you know. So I'm afraid, you know, political debates, etc., are far less important in political calculations in Nigeria. This is far less important the determination of who gets what, when, and how. So you recall the Abiola, you know, the SDP NRC debate at the 1993 election. It does appear that the candidate of the SDP made quite impressive showing, and so on and so forth. But I will not reduce the sources of the political party and the candidates of the SDP to the political debates. There were far more other issues. You know, there were far more other issues. Ethnic question, zoning question, the question of religion, you know, and so on and so on. These are political realities, you know, in politics in Nigeria. You know, these are political realities. And you know, those sectarian interests and those centrifugal forces would likely persist to the extent that, you know, the extent that Nigeria's political structure and political systems are somewhat arranged along the lines that encourages ethnicization of politics. Let me mention this as buttressed by Rotimi Suberu, a professor of political science at the University of Ibadan. The question, you know, or the problematic is not ethnicity in politics, but the ethnicization of politics and the politicization of ethnicity. These are the problems. These are the issues. Okay? These are the problems. These are the issues. You know, Nigeria is a man in obvious contradictions. The contradictions that are defined as a nationality question. There's the nationality question in Nigeria, which we cannot deny, and which includes the ethnic question and the sub-ethnic question, and so on and so forth. And it defines who gets what, when, and how. Okay? And it explains why electoral boundaries and political boundaries are often manipulated for political advantages. You know, how do we explain that a Lagos state that has about 21 million population how many local governments? 20 local governments. And the states that have been further divided into two, okay, Kano and Jigawa has 44 plus X, you know, and the X, you know, would be the number of local governments in Jigawa, you know, yeah. And you also recall that the number of local governments, etc., and political representations are equal factors in determining fiscal allocation and so forth. So these are issues that sustains the ethnicization of politics and the politicization of ethnicity in Nigeria.
You're right. Thank you very much for that. And now to Dr. Adekunle Ojo. This issue of voting.
Maybe I should just say something.
Okay, right, go on.
The question that you asking. So a good number of sentiment appears like the mother, the parent of electoral results. Let's not deceive ourselves. If sentiment was not involved, why do you have to campaign with it? You have to tell me your ideologies. You have to tell me why I should be swayed to your side. You see, you can look at people. Oh, this man, he spoke so glowingly. Oh, this woman, he was impeccable in her presentation. You know, that was what swayed some votes to Kamala Harris. And at a point, Trump had to say, oh, I'm not going to go into any debate with you again. Because he realized that that sentiment was already coming that way. It's about voters' concern. If you want to appeal to somebody to vote for you, it must be on the basis of what you are bringing to the table. People can look at you and say, look, this is wonderful. If I'm talking about ethnicity, it might not be so predictable, because I'll tell you one of the reasons why LP lost already local government, or that is Benin.
Yes.
One of the reasons they lost was that this man who is coming as our son, we have had our slot. So we don't want our son to come back. That was how Apata lost. So all of this come together. You need to, what are the concerns? What are the permutations? How are they feeling? How did they see us? And how far are we able? You know, in the election again, sentiment could be grown by misinformation, deliberate misinformation. So you must know how to tackle it. So my position really is that sentiment is part of it, but it might not be as predictable as Professor Raf put it. People might say, yes, this man is forward, but this is how we are thinking at this point in time. Somebody might say, okay, look, because we want our own time to come, so apparently let us vote for this man so that he can just carry his 4 years and go, so that we can have our 8 years. Or somebody might say, okay, yes, if this man win now, we will be having another 8 years coming to us, so let us give our vote for him. But then it is not as predictable as we made it to look like. And again, we fail to answer one question. If we are talking about discipline, I will say that and I will repeat it again. Vote by, physical vote by, started in Ondo State. So what are we talking about this evening? Go to your question.
Okay, all right. That was the question I wanted to ask. I wanted you to weigh in on the issue of sentiment regarding our election and things like that.
Must be, and I'll tell you one truth. Somebody told me, I said, how are you going to do this election in US? He said, look, for the first time I've seen a former president talking about Christ. So I'm going to give him my vote. So say it's part of it. You say things that make people happy. And if you imagine that when Trump contested the election against Biden, he lost. So the same set of it, I say, we don't want you this time around. They are now saying, come back again. Sentiment is part of it. Oh, he's white like me, I'm going to give him my vote. And what is wrong in that? It is sentiment for me to say, okay, this man is contesting, he's from my tribe, he's my brother, I'm going to vote for him. And you say another person, okay, he's my brother, but I don't like his face. People can tell you are too long, I mean, you are too tall, you're too short, you are too... Things come in. So I think basically there are people who will just listen to, yes, I know him, he's radical, but then when they get there now, they will talk to be something else. We have seen a lot of people who spoke the way my brother and I are speaking. They got there, they become ultimate collaborators. They forgot that at a point in time, it wasn't this way. They were talking about probity, accountability, this and that. But they got there, they are earning the fat pay. And they forgot what they said in the past. And they said, oh, I can see from a different perspective. And you know, that's like that. So I think basically it's really about, politics about sentiment, and we cannot rule it out. People, they want to canvass you. They want to appeal to you. That's the reason I hear that you are coming and say, okay, I've done this, I've done that. Somebody was talking about how much is he paying on the
minimum wage.
I mean, even for people, if you didn't even want to pay, but because the election was around, you had to announce quickly, and they say, oh no, he's playing to the gallery. He's doing that for political reasons. What do you expect him to do? So he had to do it. you remember that time there was an election that Mimiko would have lost. One of the reasons he won that election, Mimiko bought a lot of luxurious buses that was taking the children to school. You remember the election he had, he contested with, the election, the first election Akeredolu contested against Mimiko. He lost, Akeredolu lost woefully, and the reason he lost was because people said, there are many people who say, look, for the fact that we don't have to pay for our children to get to school. The bus parks in our bus stop and whatever, and our children just enter and they bring him back later in the day. So these are sentiments, and it will continue to be part of politics anywhere in the whole world.
So rather, would you say that we should amend our sentiments to be centered about the people who have interest of the state at heart, not just because this person is from a region then I'm voting for this person, but rather the person who seems the most capable of actually fulfilling the needs of the people in the state, that is going to contribute to the overall development in the state. Because in Nigeria we have prominent states that, you know, okay, if you are coming to Nigeria you have to visit the states because this state is a it place to be. So would it not be better if our sentiments are tailored to that aspect, different from because this person is from this religion, because this person is from this state, because this person speaks my language, or because no one in my area has become governor, so then I'm voting for this person to become governor?
Yes,
so how about that?
I will start by saying that I share in that your sentiment. but the truth has to be said. There are certain things that you cannot control. You don't control a man's emotion. I'm fair with you. And voting is a matter of, is a choice. I decide to vote the way I like to. And basically, you see, when people are canvassing for votes, they can prostrate. They can do anything to convince you. They can do anything. Say that we are the best in the whole world. They can say, after God, I am next. But when he gets in there, what he does might be a different kettle of fish altogether. I want to agree with one thing that, look, there must be a yardstick. There must be a basis. And the basis should be, yes, reputation. I care so much for reputation. If you come to me and you say, I can do it for you, I will ask, what have you done before? Because you cannot use me as a lab experiment. You cannot use the people. You have not had any office before. You have not done anything before. The first thing you decided to do was to become a governor. One of the things that really worked for Akeredolu when he was coming was that he was the president of the Nigerian Bar Association. And without any apology, I happen to be his vice president. So I can tell you that, look, he did creditably well. So if people looked at that and say, okay, he has an antecedent, he has a reputation. When people come, I'm going to do this. No, I will ask, what have you done before? You don't just jump in there and say you want to become a governor. One of the things that Ajayi is talking about is I was once a deputy governor. That's a credit for him. I hear that why he's now saying I was a deputy governor, and I've had the opportunity of being a governor for a few weeks or 3 months. So I can do it, and this is what I have done. So I think what Nigerians should care more for is people's reputation. Reputation, they must be able to ask questions. You might still be wrong at the end of the day, because you look at my brother's reputation, okay, he can do it. He gets in there, he does it. He gets in there, he's not able to do it. At that point in time, there is almost nothing you can do. You have to wait for another 4 years. Like Ashwaju said, you cannot, because you don't like somebody's face, now say, okay, we must truncate the entire democracy. What you need to do is, you have power. Wait for the 4 years, vote the way you want to vote. So that is where it comes in. Your sentiment, you can choose wrongly. A man in a dossier said, I'm sorry, I brought him to you. I'm sorry, he didn't do well. So these are part of it, because while he was canvassing for Obaseki, he told everybody that Obaseki was a messiah that they needed after him. He got there and said he was doing something, whether that was right and whether that is true or not, nobody can read. But then apparently reputation should be one watchword. Judging a man based on his reputation does not mean that he's going to read that same thing that he did at a lesser office when he gets there. But you still have to make a choice, and your choice must be a well-informed one. I did not just elect you for that office. I didn't vote for you for that office. I voted for you because of what you have done before, believing that you'll be able to do it. But I'm sorry, you didn't do it. So there's nothing anybody can do about that.
Thank you very much for that. And now, Professor Rafaki Feleye, I would really like you to weigh in on this issue of vote buying that Dr. Adekunle just said started in Ondo State, one of the Boko Sepe. How do you react to that?
Well, before reacting to vote buying, let me reflect on the sentiment expressed by my colleagues there. The issue of sentiment. Yes, sentiment is a contaminant variable, but we should not forget the dependent and independent variables. In analyzing, we must understand and consider the topography of the election in Ondo State. There are 3 senatorial zones. They agree that the candidate by turn should come from the Ondo South senatorial area. And both APC and PDP candidates are from Ondo South. Then, take their deputy governors. APC deputy governor is from the Ondo Central. PDP deputy governor is from Ondo Central. APC deputy governor is from the North. That's one area. Then, the issue of dependent variables, now luckily for us, there's no religious. Both of them are Christians. Both of them have been former deputy governors. The issue and the power of the incumbent remains very, very critical to the election. And we are talking about vote buying. It is just matter, and either both of them cannot be cleared or cannot be. They are both involved, and the vote buying has occurred before today. Because today they are going to be very careful, because FCC and security people will catch you if you try to buy. But this has been done before, even before today. If you look at analysis that have been done, so we should not be talking about going buy today. They have been bought long time ago, maybe a few weeks. That's why you see the power to be. All the governors of APC are resident in Ondo, they are right in Akure. The same thing. All the governors of PDP, serving governors and their leader, they are right in Akure. So the issue of vote buying is not going to happen today. I think that has been concluded. So, so we'll be deceiving ourselves and be living in food paradise. We say you want to buy food today. That is Old Testament. The New Testament now is for us now to look at the independent and dependent variables. Who is going to deliver what to us at what cost? And in this way, the incumbent is a very serious matter in this situation. And therefore, the vote may be close in some areas, but if you look at my analysis, you will note that both of them are from Ondo South. They are going to divide their votes,
This time. Well, hopefully, I hope we'll be able to link up with him as the program goes on, because network, please be friendly to us at this time.
I wish that Prof is right. You know, when I look at election, the dynamics are so mysterious.
We look at the vote apathy. If the more you pay, the more they come out to vote. But I can tell you that Ondo people are not likely to vote out their conscience. They are determined. You can give them money, but I think they will be focused to know to do what and at what cost and when will they do that. Sentiment apart, they are going to come out and vote for person.
This is the governor, he has done well, I'm going to vote for him. So what he's talking about, they are the variables that are applicable. But then this question we will not ask ourselves is that it will only work for you if it is positive on your side. Otherwise, it won't work for you. If all those things were to work, Jonathan would not have lost an election. Consider how much he spent. Consider how much patronage he tried to build. But upon all, people say, no, it's not going to be you. I'm not going to be a bit religious now, but then you don't take God out of anything. When Trump was going to lose, no, a lot of people did not give him that chance. But he lost as a sitting governor. So apparently, there is nothing. I'm a city president rather. There is nothing. Heavens will not fall if a sitting governor loses, and heaven will not fall if a sitting governor wins. So these are part of the sentiment permutations. People will decide. What matters to me is let the election be free and fair. Whoever wins, he has it. Okay,
all right. And now to Dr. Shetolu, there's also this analysis that has been going on that the president would truly like, of course, a states party that even if all states in Nigeria were to be for the ruling party would have been best, so that it's going to influence the outcome of the next election that is going to take place in 2027. Do you think these matters are substantiate enough to probably motivate people to vote? Because he lost in some southwestern states, which a lot of people felt like if he is from the southwest, then he should probably be able to clear all southwest states, but that was not what happened for the election. So do you think that this issue of the interest of the president could also take place in who emerges victorious for this election?
Well, we're told that every election is local. Okay, the Ondo governorship election is local, and to a large extent local issues would likely determine who emerges the governor. Okay, the president is a distant personnel to Ondo politics. Okay, the contrary argument is this, that the prevalent economic crisis under the APC government may work to the disadvantage of the party in the state. There is argument that the APC is not doing quite good at the center, so why should it be voted for in the state? But to a large extent, I rather prefer we concentrate on local considerations and local factors that will likely determine who becomes the governor, rather than the role of the presidency in Abuja. It is distant, it is distant. But what some observers are leading to, maybe what is described as the federal factor. And the federal factor, if you ask me, is a pejorative for manipulation. It's not likely legal. It's not likely ethical, So, what will likely happen where the federal factor is deployed is such that, that some INEC official will likely be biased. What will really happen is that some of the security agencies will likely work in favor of a certain political party. What will likely happen is such that security agencies will likely be watching the shenanigans without intervening on the side of the law, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the federal might which may be deployed is not often the type that fosters democracy and representative government.
Okay, so let's look at one of the criticism for this election. A lot of people are complaining about the number of security agencies that were deployed for this election. Even same for this election, that for such state election, the number of people that are deployed is just too much. Do you think it is too much, or it's just security agencies doing what they feel is necessary and best for the election?
We should situate it in context. This is an off-cycle election. It's not a general election. So the police has sufficient men on ground to deploy to Ondo State. That's it. The DIG for the Southwest spoke on a national TV yesterday. He asserted that about 34,000 police personnel have been deployed to Ondo State for the elections. He also said that a commissioner of police has been assigned to each of the 18 local governments. right, in Ondo State. He said that, he said that deputy commissioners of police and assistant commissioners of police have been assigned to assist the commissioners of police in the 18 local governments. Okay? So, so the issue is, to the extent of those figures I'd mentioned, should we conclude that the elections, are over-policed, not militarized? Now, it's not militarized, over-policed. Well, I don't know about over-policing. Well, maybe it should not be. Maybe there wouldn't be over-policing to the extent the security agencies stays on the fringes of the election venues, and to the extent that the security officials do not intervene with mainstream elections. Okay. The question we should be asking is why? It's not a new pattern. It's like virtually every election, particularly off-cycle elections, have been characterized by far more presence of policemen. Okay. Well, it is about the fierce apprehensions about virtually every election. There will likely be violence, and political parties and their patrons and allies will likely hijack political process, etc., etc. These fears are real, but but my worry is the over-policing of the process may scare the populace. May scare the populace and may result in low voter turnout. Bear in mind that the police in Nigeria is not quite a civil police. It's not quite a civil police. It will likely be hard and harm to the teeth. Maybe the NNLC will respond to this later. I watched the DIG spoke on the national TV yesterday, and he wore combat uniform. So I was asking myself, why should the DIG or any other police wear combat uniform to election venues? There's regular police uniform which would depict civility and the civil nature of the police and so on and so forth. You imagine the police presence with heavily armed and with armored tanks or armored personnel carrier at different locations and the rest of it, and the mentality of Nigerians, that life is sacred and they would rather prefer to stay at home rather than be killed, to stray bullets and all of those and so on and so forth. So that's it. Over policing may be a partly explanatory factor for low voter turnout. And the consequence, the consequence of low voter turnout, which, has characterized elections in Nigeria, is such that we have been electing minority governments. You know what I mean by minority governments? And it questions the majoritarian foundation of the majoritarian principle. Yeah, these are the problematics.
Okay, but what about putting also on the front burner that crime does not pause because election is taking place in one state of the 36 states in Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory? If you're deploying that large amount to secure the state, what about other states too? What is going to happen to their security at that time if majority of them are policing the election?
Well, I don't know. We should be asking the Inspector General of Police. Yes. I do not know the size of the police in Nigeria. I suppose the size of the police is less than 500,000. Okay? The likely argument would be that the election is important and that the stability of election is important, and the deployment will be for a few days, and that the stability of the election must be guaranteed, etc. But I appreciate your point. We should get to the point that electoral process becomes far more friendly and less apprehensive, so that we need less police. When do we get that point? When do we get to such point? I'm afraid it might not be too soon. And we should also bear in mind that besides the 34,000 policemen, paramilitary agencies are also involved. The official of the immigration service, the customs service, the fire service, etc., etc. the Civil Defense Corps, etc., are involved in the elections, have been mobilized. So in concrete terms, the security presence, including the other security agencies, it's far more than 34,000. That's what it means. And that will have implications for the cost of elections. They should be paid allowances, inconvenience allowance, out of station, etc., etc. But you know stories about denial of those allowances to policemen weeks after elections, and and so on and so forth. Diversion of such funds and all. And it raises the fundamental question about the cost of election in Nigeria. The cost of election has been huge. Why should a dying economy be spending billions on elections, and yet we're achieving so little in terms of returns, So these are the problematics. These are my worries.
Thank you for that. And now to Dr. Adekunle-Ojo. Before the election started, while they were giving directives on what to do, the IGP also banned Amotekun Corps from being part of the people that would probably secure this election. But would that not have been a better alternative? Since they are in the state, they would probably know the length and breadth of the state. Would it not have been better to include them than saying that they should stay away from the election and it's just for the federal security agencies that will be taking place, that will be protecting the election?
Well, involving Amotekun, or better put, asking Amotekun to stay away from this election has its advantages and disadvantages. Number one, an average Amotekun corps in Ekiti, Ondo, is an indigene of Ondo State. He's entitled to cast his own vote. And let's not deceive ourselves. He's being paid by Ondo State government. That's not to say that he will vote for the incumbent. But then he might be persuaded by the fact that the man who pays him is contesting for an election, then choose to stay with him and do more than ordinary to ensure the man comes into office. So when you look at all of this, asking Amotekun Corps to stay away is more of a way of showing greater transparency and accountability. You cannot be an umpire in your own election. You cannot be the decider of how the election should be secured. You are the governor and you want to secure an election that involves you. So when you use Amotekun, it's like using the governor to superintend the security of the election. I think it's in order as far as I am concerned, and we have not lost anything by asking them to stay away. Then coming to this issue of over policing, under policing and all whatnot, it is circumstance has actually led us to this level. They just had election in US. I'm not sure any policeman was even available to manage any voter, because that is the level that they have got into. And also, while you are casting your vote, it's being recorded immediately. You don't need anybody to help you compile it. It goes straight to where it should be. So it was easy. But in our own climb here, let us not forget that we have our deficiencies. Like there was an off-cycle election that took place in Kogi not quite long ago. In fact, maybe about 1 or 2 persons were shot dead immediately, because they threatened the election with their own ammunitions as well. They wanted to kill people. They wanted to. They even hijacked ballot boxes and all whatnot. And there were renowned talks within the place. Then the question is this: do we need the presence of police for our elections? As far as we are concerned in Nigeria today, it adds to the cost of electioneering. No doubt about it. People who are supposed to be doing something else will be hijacked to come and could come part of an election, which is like taking them off their normal schedule of duty. Yes, those are the price that we have to pay to ensure that there is security. Whether there could be any over security, I don't know. What I know is that there could be an unsecured election. So because you see, when we are having general election, not an off-cycle one like this, all of these policemen, you rarely see more than 2 policemen in a polling unit. Meaning that as we speak now, Nigeria is under police. That's the truth. But having said that much, it means that for that kind of an election, you don't need over concentration. But then for this kind of a thing, the DIG Southwest, because if anything happens, he will bear the blame. That's the truth. Whether it's spending, whether it's not spending, is not an issue. So for him to ensure that people are well protected, I'm not sure we have not lost anything. I'm talking about people being intimidated. I cannot see an average Ondoma being intimidated. Let me give it to them. And I don't see how an average and Ekitima will be intimidated by seeing a policeman. You are coming to exercise your civic right. And with what we have seen, we have heard from Kunle, your correspondent, and we have heard from the Yaga lady, there is no allusion to whether there was intimidation of any form. So I want to say this, that look, we are paying a price for part of our inefficiency and our peculiarity. This is a place that somebody will bring his yam from Ekiti and he will tell you that I'm going to sell this yam looking at what the dollar price, what the dollar rate is talking about. A yam that ordinarily in those days should have been like 500 naira, a tuber of yam, he now says 5,000 naira. That is our peculiarity back home in Nigeria, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. Talking about the involvement of the president, if I were to be the president, what can I do under this situation? I'm going to be fair with myself. As a president, the best I will do is to ensure that nobody rigs, so that nobody will rig my party out too. I'm not going to allow that, and I will not allow my party to rig, and I will not allow the other party to rig me out, because one thing that is the propensity, the proclivity for an average politician in Nigeria is to cry wolf where there is none. Oh, the person who is the chairman of the electoral commissioner is a party person. Is if I'm appointed today, or my brother is appointed today as commissioner for INEC commissioner, people will still say, maybe they have heard in one day talk about somebody, they will coin that, like they say, yes, he must be a card carrying member of a political party, whereas he is not. Even if you are at a point a card carrying member, you have a job to do. Do your job. That's the truth. Because there's no way you can rule out, if people are going to be appointed, sentiment equally comes in. If I'm going to be appointed, if I know that this man is anti my party, and I'm the president that is going to appoint, I will look at it from a different perspective.
Definitely.
If I put this man there, he's going to undo us. Why not let me put Mr. Dele, who is neutral, there, so that he will not work against us? So all of this, I think the president will be interested. If I were to be him, I would be interested. My interest would be that my party should not be rigged out. There should be free and fair election. So basically, if I have to ensure that we have enough policemen there to ensure that nobody is rigged out, if I have to have EFC, like EFCC, what they are doing now, for me it's like a campaign after election. You are just talking to people in the morning of election, not to do vote buy. When the vote buy was already done last night. So what are we talking about? So but whichever way, their presence there might be able to curb some infanta or some fresh cases of vote buy. So by and large, I think we will get there.
Definitely. Okay, now let us take our correspondent, who is also at Ondo State right now, Lebby Joseph, to bring us up to speed about what is going on at his end over there. Good morning, well done, and please, could you please bring us up to date on what's going on at your end over there for the election? Okay, do we have Lebby Joseph with us? Could you please bring us up to speed on what's going on at your end over there? Okay, all right. It seems it's not with us at this time. So let us go on to Professor Ralph. I hope that the network will be friendly to us at this time, so that we'll quickly take him before we go on a break and come back by 1 p.m. to continue with our analysis. So Professor Ralph, very quickly before we let you go, could you please enlighten us on which states you think, local areas rather, that you think needs to be won for any party to emerge victorious for this election? What are the key local government areas to look out for?
What? Can you repeat yourself for a little bit? What are the... Hello?
Yes, please go on.
Before I answer that question, let me just on what has been discussed. One, the federal might, president. The president cannot sit down and see his party losing an election. That's number one. Number two, the issue of over policing. I don't think that is relevant because look at what has happened. Look at peculiarities and the particularities of Ondo State. They need to fortify that state to prevent violence. The police that has been, they are doing what they call show of force. Doesn't mean that. And then you look at the manifesto of people, you know what they are trying to do. So Amateku has not been allowed to take part. Yeah, that is good. The point is, the critical issue is not selling our conscience. And as I said, that Ondo State people are highly educated, they are highly sophisticated, and they don't like cheating. They take what I call risk, even during election. And once they identify any wahala or any mago, they will speak out. And that's why the show of force is essential. And as I'm saying, Ondo is not Edo State because of our peculiarities and particularities when it comes to election. And I think we should factor that one, except we want to live in food paradise. I think everything will be well. Everything cannot be well. But the police are there to make sure things are at least moderately well for the election and of violence. And then the issue of vote buying cannot happen, as I've said before. The vote buying has occurred, has taken place long time ago, last week or more. And as I said, if you look at those people in Ondo State, they have occupied Ondo State. Go to Akure, you see that both parties, they are really fortified in their hotels and apartments. They have fortified the place. They're looking for money. And their problem is they are talking about do and die. And we are saying, not in Ondo State. Can't be do and it's do and smile. Do and laugh. Our appeal is for the political leaders who are constantly invading Ondo State. They are well fortified. And some of them are saying that they must win. If you win, okay, but don't kill people. Don't be violent. Don't pay thugs. And don't invest on thuggery. Invest on human development and human capital. Invest on peace. And they have both signed the peace accord. They should adhere strictly to the peace accord they all signed. Not that they willingly signed the peace accord.
The flow of your thoughts, Professor. Sincere apologies, but we've run out of time. And I sincerely hope you'll be able to join us again by 1 p.m. to share your thoughts with us, because we truly enjoy your analysis, and it would be a pleasure to have you with us by 1 p.m. Thank you so much. So this time we will be drawing the curtain, should I say partially for now. Please do join us at 1 p.m. where we will continue analysis. We are going on break now. Thank you so much, Dr. Deshetolu, for being with us here in the studio. And thank you to Dr. Adekunle Ojo for being with us in the studio. We will be seeing both of you again by 1 p.m. So please do stay with us. My name is Ereba Misalako. Enjoy your afternoon, and please link up with us soon. Goodbye.